All right. Welcome to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell. Today we're going to be talking about discipline and what happens when you have none. So imagine a life where you wake up every day, you have no plan, no goals, no habits, no purpose. What would that day look like? So as we get into today's show, I want to talk a little bit about how discipline impacts our lives, impacts our day-to-day decisions, and can truly be detrimental to our results, or lack of results, should I say. But as we get into this, I want to talk a little bit about my own body blueprint, because, a lot of times I talk to you guys about things that can make you more disciplined, ways you can have better habits. And one of the things I want to share today is everything that I talk about are things that I actually practice myself. I do these on a day-to-day basis. And when I get off track or when things may not be working exactly the way I want, then I have to go back and I have to change those things. So really thinking of discipline is something that you may do consistently on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. I really believe that our discipline is something that has to show up consistently day-to-day. And it's something that can be defined as like we don't miss, or we rarely ever miss, this thing. And so one of, my biggest disciplines, if you guys have, been a part of this show for a long time, is, working out. This is a habit that I've had for over 30 years. It's something I've been very committed to. And not only that, it's really helped me apply this to so many other areas of life. But over the last 5 months, I've probably just became more disciplined to what I was doing on a day-to-day basis from my workouts. Not really in like working out, maybe working out more, but just working out differently, like changing up some of the things that I'm doing, looking for ways that I can get better results, looking for ways that I can drop even more body fat. And this episode, I want to talk a little bit specifically about, there's been times where I haven't had goals towards, my physical body, or maybe just the goals I had weren't really pushing me to change. There was times where, yes, I did the habit of working out, but if I don't have goals that push me to do something different, then what's going to end up happening is that my habit isn't really going to mean anything, which means that how much are my results really going to change? And so if you're maybe listening to this, I'm going through a 90-day blueprint that I'm going to be going through weekly over the next 12 weeks that will walk you through how I'm getting down to a single-digit body fat. It's going to walk you through some of the things that maybe I struggle with, or maybe the things that I have to work on in order to do this. Because keep in mind, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished in your past unless you're going to borrow that into the future. So there's been a lot of times where I've done physical challenges that have pushed me out of my normal comfort zone and forced me to have to change what I was currently doing to begin to accomplish that. But what I find is if there isn't a goal like that, then it's very hard to maintain that standard. And so we have to constantly change our goals. We have to constantly challenge ourselves physically if we want to grow, if we want different results. So let's talk about this. Some of the, I've had the opportunity to work with some of the most disciplined people that I know, from Navy SEALs to, elite athletes to just elite level entrepreneurs even. And I think one of the things that's very common is there's a consistency that they all demonstrate. And I would say number one is this: they get up early. Does that mean that everybody has to get up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., or 6 a.m.? No, Does that mean people that don't get up at those times are not successful? No. But if I took all those people that I've met, I would say the common thing between all of them is they get up before 5 a.m. And so if you're listening to this, like, well, dude, I don't like to get up at 5 a.m. Well, nobody likes to get up at 5 a.m. And that's exactly the point, is that when you get up at 5 a.m. or earlier, you're not doing it because you like it. You're doing it because you don't like it, but you also know what's on the other side of that. And so many times I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners and they're just like, dude, I just need more sleep. And I'm like, hey, I totally understand that. But what are the results that you have? And is there somewhere else you can get more sleep, like going to bed earlier instead of, thinking about, I got to sleep longer. The other thing is this: they have a common pattern of habits. Typically, they have physical habits, they have spiritual habits, and they have business habits. And those are usually things and they're constantly working on growing. So what do I mean by that? Whether it's the entrepreneur, whether that's the athlete, or whether that's somebody in the military or high level, they have a structure. They have a very structured life. They don't like to deviate from it. And if you followed them around, they would probably do pretty close to the same thing every day. And that doesn't really get deviated. So the routine that they go through on a consistent basis is pretty much the same, but then there's a high level of growth that they are committed to, and they'll do whatever it takes to get that. So they'll put themselves in uncomfortable situations. They'll push themselves to uncomfortable places because they know on the other side of that is growth. And that is, that's one of the great things about being around disciplined people, is you begin to take that on. The last piece is they're not afraid to fail. And I'll kind of say two things. Like, there's a lot of people I know that are not afraid to fail, but they don't try new things. But, in this sense, elite athletes, people that are in the military high level, and typically people that are high level entrepreneurs, they're not afraid to fail at whatever they're doing. In fact, it's almost like they run to failure, or they run to something that's very hard, because they recognize that, hey, the more that I do this, the more opportunity I have to grow on the other side of it. And so as you think about this, it's like, hey, who are the most disciplined people I know? How can I begin to get around those people more? Because they're going to really push me to that next level of growth. They're going to really push me out of my comfort zone, and they're going to challenge me to do this. So if you're one of the most disciplined people, you need to find some new people that are even more disciplined, because I know for me, there's been times where, maybe when I started a program, I wasn't the most disciplined, or maybe when we started training. But as we continue to grow, and as I continue to grow, then I would become, the most disciplined person. So it really forced me to change my habits, my patterns, my behaviors, because it pushed me to that next level of growth. And so just thinking about, being a business owner, being a coach, is you look at people's patterns, you look at the things they're doing. And if people are spending more time talking about what they've accomplished in the past, what they used to be able to do, that's a key indicator that, hey, what you're currently doing isn't working, that you currently haven't outgrown your past success, and that keeps you stuck, because what you remember are the past successes you have, not the new things that you've been able to do. And so as I started to think about this for my own body, I'm like, man, what if I conducted just a simple experiment where I had someone follow me around for an entire week. They took notes on the daily habits, the daily discipline, the things that I did on a day-to-day basis. Like, what would they say? And would they actually see, man, hey, this person is really disciplined. This person, does these things every single day at the same time. And it's impressive to just watch someone go through those normal range, those normal motions. And at the end of the week, that person had to write a report on your level of discipline. What would you need to change on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? What would you need to do differently? And what level of productivity did you demonstrate? And then how did you show up, for your employees? How did you show up for your family? Because when you start to think about those things, you begin to recognize things that you need to change in yourself and things that you need to get better at to be more productive. And this is exactly what this 90-day blueprint is about. Yeah, it's about getting down to single-digit body fat, but it's really about me looking at these things and saying, man, imagine, I got someone following me around taking notes, and I start taking notes on myself. That's like, hey, man, I notice you waste a lot of time. I noticed, in the mornings you get caught up on your phone. I noticed, every day around lunch, you kind of have this thing where, you take an hour instead of like 20 or 30 minutes to get back to work. And so those things all hurt productivity. They all hurt the actual goal I'm trying to accomplish. And so as I go through that, I get to change things up, and I get to take notes on that, and I get to make those necessary changes. But this really changed my perspective when I started thinking about, hey, how can I, step up my habits? How can I step up my goals? How can I make sure that I hit those even if they're uncomfortable? And so, as I started to look at my own, I'm like, hey, I need to get up earlier. I need to pretend like I got someone following me around every day that's taking notes on my production, my habits, my daily discipline. And at the end of the week, they're going to report on how I did. They're going to report on my phone use. They're going to report on all the things that I may be not paying attention to, and the level of productivity. And most importantly, like, what are my results at the end of that week? Now, I want to encourage you, as a listener to this program, is like, hey, what is one area that you need to be more disciplined? Maybe it's just you setting a goal for a specific area and having an actual habit, having something that actually means something. Because I know this, when people typically don't have a goal, they don't have good habits. And when they don't have good habits, they're not very disciplined. And then they wonder why, man, I don't have any discipline in my life. And it usually traces back to, well, you don't really have a clear goal. And that's the bigger issue. And so without those things, you're just not going to be disciplined because there's no reason to be. And so one of the things that we do first is, if you want to make small changes, you need to start with a goal. You need some small habits, and then you need the daily discipline to begin to do that. Now, the other thing is you got to be committed to it. And a lot of people today are living based off feelings and emotions. They're not living off their commitments, and they're letting their feelings and emotions dictate what they do or don't do on a day-to-day basis. And that's really frustrating for them when it comes to their results. And so if you guys are listening to this, hey, what's one discipline you need to change? Maybe you need to go back, reset your goals, and just get clear on whatever that is. I don't care if it's a 30-day goal. I don't care if it's a 2-week goal. It doesn't matter, but having a goal always works better than no goal. Having habits that trace back to your goals always works better than not having habits that trace back to any goals, because every single day it's a choice for me. It's a choice to wake up and do the work or not do it. But the only way I'm going to know whether or not I did do it or didn't is going to be based off the results that I'm getting. So if if you guys need help with this, you can simply go down in the show notes. You can check out our Facebook group, Habit-Based Lifestyle and Business Secrets. Some of the biggest takeaways from this episode is, hey, have a goal, have a habit, and have a daily discipline set in place if you really truly want to change your results. If you don't want to change your results, then obviously don't have goals, don't have habits. But if you have questions on this, you can always reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. I'll be working on these episodes, the 90-day body blueprint, every week for the next 90 days. You'll hear about some of the wins, some of the successes that I'm having. You'll also hear about some of the things that I struggle with or maybe struggling with, but what you'll hear is real things that I'm working on. Until next episode, hope you guys have a great week.